Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new video here on this YouTube channel called Max Talks Movies. My name is Max Denberg, and because we are halfway through the year 2020, one of the worst years in a long, long time, because we're halfway through, I'm going to give you my 5 worst movies of the year here in this channel. Following that, tomorrow I'll be giving you my 5 best, in my opinion, my favorite movies of the year 2020. But today it's all about the worst, the duds of the year 2020. If you want to support this channel, the best way to do it is hitting that like button, also hitting that subscribe button, and ring the bell for all notifications on all the next upcoming videos, which will be busy here on Max Talks Movies. So before, let's just get into it. Probably before I start, in the comment section down below, leave me your 5 worst movies of the year. If you haven't seen all these movies, that is perfectly okay. Some of these movies, by the way, I do already have full reviews up on the channel, so I'm not going to be going as in-depth, but for the movies I haven't talked about here on Max Talks Movies, I'll be talking pretty in-depth for those movies. All of these movies, by the way, will be non-spoiler reviews. If you haven't seen any of these movies, that is perfectly okay because this will be a non-spoiler talk. So let's get started with number 5, and that is the only movie this year in my bottom 5 that I got to see in the theater, and that was The Grudge, which was the very first movie that I saw in the year 2020. It came out basically the first 2 weeks, I think what it was, in January. I previously haven't seen this franchise. This is kind of my introduction to the Grudge horror franchise. And for me, it just didn't work. It was always, for me, one of the worst films of the year, including heading into being on my bottom 5 as we hit July. And the movie came out about 7 months ago, so that's pretty insane as well. The film is super lazy. Every single scene has a built-up jump scare that isn't really warranted. Also in the film, they have a lot of different storylines going on in different timelines, trying to conclude at the end with one complete story, and it just doesn't work. John Cho and Betty Gilpin, who are really great actors, are also in this movie, and their storyline is felt so out of left field. And the problem with the movie as well is that all the characters that we're supposed to be rooting for, of course, all have these bad lineage, bad family deaths, a bad situation, and this doesn't work. Our main character, she has a kid, but her husband left. John Cho and Betty Gilpin's kid, they're not really sure when she has the child, if the child will make it through the pregnancy. And Jackie Weaver is a reporter for, not a reporter, she's like a helper, and you know that that's not going to go well. So the problem is the movie is way too predictable. It's way too dark. The film doesn't really have any life to it as well. The scares, as I said earlier, aren't really great scares because every scene, they're really trying to do a jump scare with a lot of tension. And for me, it just never really worked. I never really enjoyed myself in the theater watching it. There's one character, the old lady who was involved in the Jackie Weaver storyline, who's a great horror actress. She was easily the best entertaining part of the movie, and you can tell she knew what movie she was in. But of course, because of all these horrible backstories, the movie is taking itself way too seriously. And when the ending happened, and when you see the credits roll, I was like, wow, we're gonna end on that note. A really disappointing movie with no characters that you're actually rooting for. And if you're rooting for any of the characters, it's because of the actors, not themselves, their characters. For me, Grudge, the 2020 version, comes in at number 5. And that is the only movie that I've seen this year in theaters that will make it on this bottom 5. So the rest are streaming films. My number 4, which I have already reviewed here on Max Talk Movies, and that is John Henry. Again, just like The Grudge, wasn't really into this franchise, never really saw anything about any of the past John Henry movies heading into this one, which is its own new story on the John Henry story. And I absolutely hated this movie. I was looking for Netflix movies that I missed possibly. And I went through it and I said, John Henry was like, wow, Terry Crews, ludicrous action movie, an hour and a half. Why not just dive into it? And I did. I didn't see anyone review about it. So I had nothing to look on. And I absolutely couldn't stand this movie. I gave it a half a star. I saw this movie in late May. So now it's taken on a month ago. And it's pretty forgettable as well. Terry Crews is fine in his role as John Henry. Ludacris is doing the best he can with some terrible material and a terrible CGI work on his face as the villain. But the movie just has, for such a short amount of time, it's only an hour and a half movie, there is no action to be found in this film. Maybe the last 5 to 10 minutes. And then once the action starts to hit, we already go to credits. So that really suffers for the movie. Terry Crews' dad is actually probably the strongest character in the movie. But there's a storyline with this Mexican cartel that gets involved. And once their two characters, something happens to them, you could have written them out of the movie and the movie would have been the exact same thing. For a movie that's an hour and a half, it doesn't have any really great character development. Any spectacular performances aren't there. The action scenes, there aren't there. And this movie needs to rely way more on its action because that's what the movie is built to be, an action movie with, you see John Henry, that sledgehammer. We don't even see that until the final 5 minutes of the movie. And that was extremely disappointing. John Henry, for me, a completely forgettable movie with a very weak villain that is, once again, taking itself way too seriously for a movie of this caliber. Moving into number 3, which is, again, another movie that I just reviewed in the month of June, about a month ago. And it was just on my ranking on the worst, my June 2020 movie rankings. Now for the year, it's currently falling at number 3 as my least favorite movie of the year, third worst. I've already said this multiple times here. This is on my third try talking about Artemis Fowl here on this YouTube channel. And I've gotten some great feedback on what I said. Once again, I'll just keep reiterating what I said. It's a pretty bad movie. Weak performances across the board from actually pretty talented actors. And the disappointing part is our lead here. Not a good performance, and you don't really get why he is this mastermind, a criminal mastermind that they keep talking about throughout the film. It feels like they made this movie 2.5 hours, and they said, ooh, this is really bad. Let's cut it to an hour and a half. And the movie combines 3 books. Remember, I haven't read the books. They had 3 books into one movie. And while it's also trying to set up a whole other movie, it doesn't focus on its own movie itself. There was supposed to be this huge climax in the third act, but again, never happens. We never leave Artemis Fowl's house. He's stuck in his house basically the whole film. And my favorite shot of the trailer involving Hung Chow wasn't even in the movie, which was completely disappointing. So Artemis Fowl, great director in Kenneth Branagh. You have Colin Farrell, Judi Dench, Josh Gad, all in this film. And Disney Plus, which has been a platform that I've really trusted since getting it last year. I've really thoroughly enjoyed most. I haven't hated any Disney Plus movie, and so far this is easily the worst Disney Plus movie that's new that we've got on this streaming service, and that's why it falls in as my third worst film of the year. So now these next 2 films are films I have not reviewed yet on this channel, so I'm excited to talk to you guys. Well, not really excited about to talk about these movies. So number 2 here is A Fall from Grace. This came back, I think, maybe April, earlier in the year. This is a Netflix movie directed by Tyler Perry. Now, I heard a lot about Tyler Perry's work. I've barely seen the Medea films. Really haven't enjoyed any of Tyler Perry's work as a director. And this movie, man, I do give Tyler Perry a little credit for trying to go in a completely other direction than his other films. All of his films are basically comedies that don't make any sense, but are fun, I guess, enough for some fans. Not really for me, but this movie is a completely serious, dramatic, depressing movie about Grace, who gets into this relationship, and that when that falls through, all this stuff happens, and she gets thrown into jail. And there is a lot going on here. You're not really also curious about who is the main character. Those 2 people behind me, they're supposed to be the main characters, but they also feel like side characters at the same time. The movie is way too dark as well. And also the wigs are probably one of the worst wigs jobs that I have seen in a film, maybe in my life. Just laughably bad wig jobs. I also think Tyler Perry in this movie is also pretty bad. His performance doesn't really make any sense other than Tyler Perry needs to be in his own movie. As well, the movie just never feels exciting. They do this huge twist, and the advertisement did do a good job of presenting before the movie came out that there was this huge twist in the third act that changed the whole movie, and it sure did, and it came out of left field. After the movie was taking itself so seriously, the movie at times felt like it was a real thing. It has this huge storyline involving Felicia Rashad, who's some reason in this movie, and I couldn't believe that they were like, this is going to be the twist, and it just doesn't fit with the tone of the film. I'm not going to reveal that twist if you haven't seen it. No, I'm not recommending you see these movies that I'm telling you about today. I don't want to spoil them for you if you want to check them out because you have nothing else to do in quarantine. But A Fall from Grace was just such a depressing movie. It had any life. You're not rooting for any of the characters. The wigs are pretty awful. And the big plot twist is feels like it got put into it. It was a complete different movie, it felt like, when it got inserted here in A Fall from Grace. So for me, it's the second worst movie of the year. And my number one here, and that's pretty easy for me, even though all these films are basically either 1 out of star or a half a star. And that is Dangerous Lies. I was not excited for Dangerous Lies. This is the last movie, I think, that to come out in the month of April. So I think maybe April 31st, I think is when this came out. I watched it that night. I hate this movie. It's really bad. And it's probably one of the most by-the-number movies that we have seen executed so poorly this year. I've seen a lot of by-the-number films in the year 2020, but the reason why some of them are just average or they're whatever, they're bad, but they're not awful. And this movie has terrible execution in its plot. Now, I do like our lead here, Orlash is from Riverdale, and I find her really charming and easily the strongest part of this film, but it just doesn't work. They try to do plot twist after plot twist, and her name's by Camila Mendes. That's my mistake. But it's unbelievable, some of the plot twists that are chosen for this movie, and because you know that it's coming a mile away. Jamie Chung has a plot line in here. You know where that's going. You know, once the villain basically shows up in the early part of the movie, you know he's going to be bad. And you know there's no chance that it's another person who's messing up their family. And it's just a wildly predictive movie that makes absolutely no sense. And it's Jesse T. Usher, who his acting really should show that he might be the bad guy. But once you find out what's the ending, it makes no sense why his performance or why his character were making those type of looks. And just the way he acted the movie made no sense with how his story concluded. And that was terrible as well. Now, you really built, I thought like the first couple minutes was pretty solid. Camila Mendes building into his relationship with this old man. That worked. And you felt their relationship. But once they kind of get rushed into getting the house, you don't understand why they don't think something's off. And when it happens, they're just rolling with it. And for me, it just never worked. The ending is so not satisfying because you know every single step of the movie. It's one of the most unoriginal things, I think, of the year 2020. And that's why Dangerous Lies, which was on Netflix, comes in here as my number one weakest film of 2020. So, guys, I want to let you guys know down in the comment section, tell me if you agree with my picks for the worst movies of 2020 so far. Also, tell me if you missed these movies, tell me your actual list of the 5 worst movies of the year. Out of this list, 1 movie was a theatrically released movie out of my bottom 5. 3 were on Netflix, and 1 was on Disney+. If you really like this video, please give me a like button and leave a comment, as I just said. And also share the video. If you guys know people who would love this type of content, which is streaming platform reviews, movie reviews, TV show reviews, and rankings, please share the video to anyone you think would really enjoy this. We're at 40 subscribers right now. If we get to 100, I will be doing a 100 subscriber live stream, which I would really love to do soon. I know it's going to take a while, but I want to get there as quickly as possible. And also hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button. Tomorrow, I'll be releasing my top 5 movies of the year so far in the month of 2020. And then this upcoming Friday, 2 new movies are coming out, The Old Guard to Netflix and Greyhound on Apple+. I'm going to watch both those movies on Friday and review both of them here for Max Movies. So 3 more movies by the end, 3 more videos by the end of Friday. So a big week here on Max Talk Movies. Thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you guys next time.